Okay, wanted to start the recording. So hello to everyone who's here. If you just showed up, I'm Rob Koch. I'll be presenting a reInvent recap from this year's AWS reInvent, just basically to talk about what happened, what I did there, what things that you can gain from what I've learned. I wanted to bring it out and share it to the community. I'm an AWS data hero, and I'm involved with a lot of the AWS community of sharing information, as well as, communicating ideas and getting together in collaboration sessions with other heroes that we come up with different things of how to improve AWS products and various things that we can share out in the community. It's really, we're just scratching the surface on what heroes can do for the community. So they've recognized our expertise in specific fields, and we bring our knowledge to that space. A lot of people who are really skilled in various AWS products and services, but I have kind of like a niche data approach to my expertise. I'm good with RDS, DynamoDB, various things like that I've become an expert in with AWS key spaces, things like that. But I'm not well versed in open source database type of things. I know what they do, I know their function, and the point of what we kind of do is to architect various solutions for the community and clients that we work with. So that's basically a little gist about me as a AWS data hero. So for those of you who don't know, I am utilizing a sign language interpreter today. There will be captioning available too. If you select that as an option on your screen, you can look at the captions. You can also utilize the interpreter, whatever fits your needs while I'm giving this presentation this evening. So a little bit about myself, just kind of what we're going to talk about today: new products, improvements, enhancements. Maybe some of you are familiar with some of this information already, but I just kind of what I wanted to share. Obviously, I can't remember everything that we've learned. There's a lot that goes on at reInvent, but I basically just wanted to walk through a few things on the list and just kind of what I had learned from my experience there in relation to the members of this group. So there's something that we learned a little bit about video utilization and auto captioning and things like that. It seemed like there's been improvements on that. And yeah, then just kind of what I did for the whole week. I guess what happened to me in Vegas. I'm trying to see if I can spotlight Amelia so people can see her for those who would like to. Just trying to make sure the settings are good for everyone. No, I can't see Rob.
I can actually see Amelia already right from the start.
Okay, yeah. When he spotlighted me, it spotlighted me for me, and that's all I could see. So all right, so we'll leave it off so that we can all see the people we need to see. All right, so who am I? As I mentioned, I'm an AWS data hero. I was part of the first 3 in the group of that cohort. I've been, involved since they've had a lot of serverless and container heroes and things like that. There's some community heroes. That's kind of the biggest grouping of individuals in the hero program at the moment. They came up with a few new paths, but there's machine learning data, community containers. There's a few others. So when I first joined, there was 3 in my cohort: me, Alex Debris, and Alvaro from Spain. And so at that time, I was living in Colorado. Now I'm based in Seattle, Washington. I work for Slalom Build as a consultant. We go into various client spaces and create maybe proof of concepts or MVPs that they're trying to build out for their particular use cases. And then what comes out of that, we essentially will sign a contract with various clients of maybe 3, 6, 9 months or longer. Sometimes our projects get extended. So yeah, we just work with them as a consultant, and we build some interesting solutions for our clients. I started as a developer. Well, let me go back. When I graduated from college at Gallaudet University, I graduated with a degree in economics. And I worked for a big insurance company. Some of you may have heard, Prudential Insurance. So that was based in New Jersey. I was working with them, and I really didn't enjoy the workflow. It was pretty standard workflow at the time, but I thought there's ways that we could use tech to improve that workflow. It was very paper-driven back then. We would use key entry and things like that. It just didn't really work for me as the current workflow existed. So I asked my boss if he minded if I looked into it and just did a little bit of research to see if I could improve some things. And he lended me the opportunity to be able to do that. Some interesting talk around the office at that time, but I really definitely was able to get into it, and went to the bookstore, bought a programming book, and just kind of looked through it and learned some of the code. And at that time, I think people were pretty impressed with my proof of concept. And so I ended up being brought over a little bit more to the tech side of things, and the rest is a little bit history. I ended up being a software engineer, was doing stuff on mainframe and making different consoles talk to each other. And then I just really dove into databases at that point. And ever since, I've been working kind of like between those two spaces of software engineering and databases, servers and apps. I was really just interested in drilling down into databases and figuring out how to get those databases to work better, faster, more efficiently. And so that's one of my skills. I didn't really have any interest in becoming a DBA. Didn't really want to delve into that realm of infrastructure. I kind of wanted to know how things ticked, how to make things work. And so a few years ago, I went over a little bit to the DevOps side of things and learned Kubernetes. Just was curious about that side of the world in tech. And so I dove into that. I really did enjoy it. That was a nice opportunity to be working on Kubernetes. Whether or not that's the future, I don't know. I would say I think it's kind of a bridge to shifting over to, from on-prem and all of that over to the serverless cloud space. So that's my personal opinion of how I think things are going to evolve. I think it's mainly a bridge to that, but everybody's of course entitled to their own opinion on that. So that's a little bit about me. If everybody's good so far, can move on. So I can't go through, every single announcement. There's way too many things, 279 announcements over the course of it. But just as things are coming out around October, November, and then reInvent, of course, they call them sort of like pre-announcements. They kind of go around with it, different types of things that are thrown out there. And everything is dumped into everyone's laps at reInvent. They don't want it to be so overwhelming. So what they do is kind of do a few earlier announcements leading up to it. So what they announce now, they might have like workshops and presentations about it at reInvent. So one of those things might be how people react to the various types of announcements and things like that. And there are some confidentiality things that we know a little ahead of time. As a hero, we are privy to some of that information, insider knowledge, before it's announced to everyone. But of course, it's under NDA, so they feel comfortable sharing that with us. But in the past, we kind of knew what was going to happen at reInvent. But these days, it's almost like there's so many products out there, and there's so many features that are and enhancements and things that are being added to the current offerings, that some of the things catch us by surprise even. So yeah, lots of things going on. So some of this bit here with reInvent, they come up with different playlists. Like this year, they had different keynotes and leadership sessions and things that they would get together and discuss. Each year, like years past, there might be a couple of weeks, things would start to pop up on YouTube. And this year, by days, even, I would say things, were coming up even closer to the actual conference itself. And I can show you kind of what you can see on YouTube as far as those things go. Maybe, people aren't using AWS, but might be things like at the same time, what works for me, and maybe take a peek at it. And so as a general trend in the cloud space and why people are moving to the cloud, and it's the biggest buzzword that I feel like by far today is kind of how we're transitioning to the cloud, and the different approaches that people are taking to get there. I think the information and learning about the cloud and what's there is still very much, people are trying to figure out how it's going to benefit them, how they can scale, cost related things, various types of questions that a lot of people have about moving to the cloud. But I think, as most of us I'm sure do, that the cloud is here to stay, and just trying to get various people's heads wrapped around it. If you can imagine being on-prem and you have your co-location of things and you're renting servers and whatnot and all of that, somewhere it may go down the street, where we have everything set up on-prem, and maybe you've got your hardware and your disk space and all of that stuff, and then the energy costs of that involved, plus the physical space and the actual equipment. Once you're putting all of those things together with the hardware and the servers, get it all set up, great. But the problem is that the business grows, then you have to keep adding more hardware to that. You can't just predict your scalability and how big the company may or may not get. So you buy maybe too many pieces of equipment, or maybe you rent that out to people. Various ways that a company might deal with that. So having all of the various things that, the array, meaning the hard drive has, like 5 in one and one fails, then you'd have the other 4 in, that you could replace in that, so that it would give you in a way a fail safe. If one hard drive fails, another will just, become its backup as it's recovered. But if you needed to order a hard drive, let's say, or, things like that, you lose sleep at night, right? Because it's not instantaneous. And have you planned for that? And all of these type of things that could happen to a physical on-prem type of situation, or somebody needs to go into the office, or something happened to the server center, maybe it gets bombed, or somebody runs into the building with their car, or there's power outages, right? There's so many different things that could go wrong with that type of thing. So the cloud, in a way, is more robust and has different ways of dealing with those type of things, which I think is pretty great. So if you have any questions or thoughts for discussion, feel free to add them in the chat, or if you want us to, bring them up during our discussion, we can. So for keynotes, with the playlist, I was going through all of that and kind of walking through what happened, I guess, in Vegas, and then we can open the floor up for more of a collaborative discussion when people have questions and things. So here with the keynotes, this is pretty neat because when you can see the industry trends where people are going to the cloud, what is the cloud? What's the popular thing to get involved in the industry? For example, a couple of years ago, serverless was the big thing. Everybody was talking about Lambdas and function as a service and things like that. Seemed like there was a lot of obsession over that, getting rid of servers, EC2s, maybe shut those down and then use a Lambda to use an event bridge or different things like that, API gateways with DynamoDB, lots of different serverless technologies out there. And that was really the hot thing that started about a couple of years ago. And nowadays, I feel like at reInvent, I saw a lot of talk of involving data, which was great for me personally. I love that. There was, I think, a lot of discussion on unlocking the value of how data can be used. And one of the ones that I loved, Swami gave a talk, data related. So that was a nice talk, and there was a lot of discussion related to that. They talked about how to get video to show, let's see if I can do this. How you can adjust the speed and make it faster, right? So I used to use the right click arrow. Can you see my screen, everybody? I just make sure it's still showing. So you can skip through here, obviously, using your right arrow on your keyboard, and you can kind of filter through what's important, maybe not so important, sort of fast forward through it here. I'm skipping through all this. So now you can see the kind of information and the details there. You can use this to take notes from and say, oh, okay, like this is particular thing that I'm interested in, and what's the maybe design and the diagram that they used to just go off these talking points. You can see that they have emphasized here data beats intuition. And the reason behind this is, I think, is because data can unlock, various value for machine learning, different event-driven architectures and whatnot coming down the pipeline, lots of other types of things in the business that you might have out there and use data related. So that was exciting to see this talk about all the data involvement here. So this is how I kind of get through some of these videos quickly and as fast as possible to consume the content, because I'm sure you've noticed there's quite a bit of them. So they had some stuff, the CEO of AWS who was speaking, go to. So here you can see, like within the video, that little wave at the bottom right above the time bar there, you can kind of see potentially when people were getting excited. Aurora was one of the more popular discussions, so that was mentioned here. And then let me fast forward a little. They were talking about Graviton 3 being faster, using less energy for purposes of making the world a better place, as far as emphasizing that. So they were definitely chatting that up a bit. They were talking about high performance computing and how we can run and move data as fast as possible from one place to another, and being able to transform that data as well. Sometimes you can move data over and you don't necessarily need the transformation. Sometimes you require a lot of it. So that was kind of just a walkthrough of how to make that process more efficient. Let me see. So one announcement that they had was zero ETL. So instead of having the data coming through S3 or Aurora or things like that, you could dump it all into Redshift with no ETL and just be able to pull that from there. So that was kind of a fun thing to learn. Another one of these talks had, let me see, the partnership announcements. It's really fun to see kind of what the industry is doing with partnerships out there. So they were here to talk about, partners to selling AWS services, being reliant on that, as a partnership, helping the clients move over to AWS through that. So you can see kind of how people out there are spending money in relation to AWS. So that was some interesting facts there. There's a ton of information here, so you guys can navigate that at a future date if you're interested. But either way, there's a ton of these talks here. One of the heroes' favorite talks was Werner's. He always has a nice introduction. You probably have seen some of the things, like this is at the beginning of one of his. They really wanted to emphasize asynchronization instead of working in parallel, different things. So this was kind of fun. It's blue or red, right? Which one will it be? So yeah, this was kind of the way he was describing pushing that type of architecture for asynchronous approaches. And then this, I think, was just displaying the idea of needing to wait in line and then wait for your coffee and so like that, being a demonstration of synchronous to a point. And if you order your coffee, let's say in this example, and then it comes, maybe the barista is making the coffee at the same time while somebody's paying for their coffee. And here in this example, you can see kind of it's a little slower of a process and it takes a bit of time. So that was kind of a fun way to illustrate that. So the key to these is really just to look at the patterns, and you can use that in any architectural diagram that you make. So all of this you really do see in various architectural diagrams. And if you use this to kind of organize your work, then a lot of people have similar approaches. So I was wondering, with these various talks and taking notes and kind of reframing or rehashing whatever would match your future designs for clients or for talks that you may have out there, and various things. So that was pretty cool. Again, more architectural design stuff that you can use for different patterns. Just trying to follow these little spikes here. So they were talking about these different type of ways to open your JetBrains and GitHubs, and printing the code is, a lot of the patterns out there are very similar. If you develop software, you pull a file from S3 and then you pull it down from a database somewhere, maybe DynamoDB, and then from there you're maybe working it into a RDS or Postgres or any sort of pattern that way. So you can tweak that to match your use case and what you're looking for based on your requirements. So it's a little bit of what he's talking about here. And I know some people here that are on the call are from Memento. Hello, welcome. We were talking about some of these things to have the layer in between the app and the database, and utilizing some of these things too with app hashing and stuff. Trying to find the popular moments here. So there you go, visualize everything. As a deaf person, I love this phrase. So this was his keynote, which was great if you have an opportunity to watch it. And then in addition to that, we had a lot of sessions. One of my favorites was this first one on the list here. Different experiences in terms of capability and all of that. This person is a community engagement lead. So this one I really enjoyed, talking about how to improve developer experience in AWS. So again, you see how they're using a lot of visualization to explain and elaborate for people to see, which was great. So they were mentioning reducing friction and things. And this one doesn't have that same little graphic above the slider here, so I can't go to the more exciting bits right off the bat here, but just talking about these type of projects related with code and changing everything that we do, because again, everything is based in the similar patterns. So what you write is still going to a database and going through an API or going to a web UI. We reuse a lot of these same patterns over and over, unless you come up with something new for a particular use case. I think a lot of this, that we're breaking down to the same patterns for the most part. So they were discussing that here. So that was a nice one as well. I really enjoyed it. I was speaking with, let me find it here. So with this section here, I was pretty excited about. We're developing, apps and looking at maybe you don't know where to start or what to do. So this can help you visualize as you go the app. This particular service here, so you can visualize the various tools, and typically you can customize as much as you need to tweak it a little bit more to maybe, let's say, like you want to bring it up, you want to bring it down from a high level and get into it. And if you want to switch back over to the code, then you could add and make little tweaks here and save it, and then go back to this more visualization for that will reflect your changes. There are some limitations. a little bit with, the learning curve as well, just hard to learn every single thing. So the visualization is kind of a nice way to start. So that was a pretty fun tool. And there was the various leadership sessions that I was talking about. Here you can see on the right side. So you can click on any of those and unlock different information here. This was a new announcement that they announced was AWS Glue for Ray. This one you can scale up really nicely. So that was a pretty cool announcement. Talking about BI dashboards like QuickSight and how to upload things faster from Redshift. They've improved the Redshift speeds a lot. So that was talking a little bit about this. I enjoy these type of talks. I like learning what's going on, and I really, just it's nice to be able to go through it quickly like this, so you can jump around with the information, get as much out of it in a quicker fashion. So there's some like highlights down here written out from the video. And then there were some breakout sessions that are more specific to granular level of what's happening within these various topics. So they announced some releases like, for example, Event Bridge, Pipes, and Snap Start Lambda. So it would be, Lambda's had a problem with cold start for a while now. And so you're able, Snap Start, it's just available in Java for now, to my knowledge, but this will be able to look at your code and kind of get everything ready when you need it. And then it'll be able to spin it up as needed and run the Lambda at that point. So with Python and .NET, those will be coming, Go and other languages that'll be coming down the pipeline, I think. And then they were talking about blue-green RDS deployments with a database. When you deploy a database, you have to be kind of careful, because if you deployed something new, like a new schema or a new structure, you could break an API or your app. So it was a way of splitting it up so that you can deploy partial in 2 different runs, being split up that way. So your API could wait for that to happen before an upgrade. Let's say if you're doing an upgrade to your API before it was pointing to blue, you can deploy it to green now, and then if green looks good, everything works, and then at that point the API can upgrade and point to the green from the blue, so you don't have to worry about things having downtime. One thing that's missing in my observation of this discussion with other heroes is if we need to back out, if you need to go, like, say, back from green to blue, that's not available yet. But, AWS is always improving little by little with all of their products. So I would imagine that will be in the works, if not already in the works for future feature. There's also an auto copy, like if there's data onto, let's say, S3, and you would have to manually do something on that end of the data to Redshift to get the data to show up on Redshift the way it's structured. So auto copy makes it in a way you can just put a dump of like a new file into S3 and it'll show up in Redshift like almost instantaneously. You don't have to wait. So that's kind of exciting news on that front. As I mentioned, there were a lot of different things that they talked about, and we'll have to just look for a few things with DynamoDB, and I was talking with Alex Debris too, and just different modeling and single platform designs and things. And there was some pretty interesting discussions that came out of that as well. Infrastructure as code was brought up as well. They were talking a little bit about that. Always amazing to me with what comes out of these talks. So that's really great. And then what happened in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? So yeah, whirlwind of a week. I have some photos, and I wanted to share some of what happened in Vegas. So first off, schedule wise at reInvent, right? It's a week long, basically Monday to Friday. So during work week, I flew in on Sunday, and I figured I'd fly in various days because it's nice to like get in a day before everything gets really busy. And reInvent itself is just full of energy. There's a lot of people interacting with each other, talking, finding people with similar thought processes and things like that. So Monday, we start kind of the official events. You go in and get your badge, you get your swag, the hoodie they give out every year. And then we did, we got together with, friends, and getting together with just people you haven't seen in a while. The past few years, they had a midnight madness party, which starts kind of late at night. This year, they did not do that particular party. Monday morning, just doing a lot after breakfast, and then no, maybe we didn't do breakfast. I'm trying to remember. Start of the day, meetings start to creep up, keynotes kick off that day. What else? Various talks, keynotes that are a couple of hours. Typically, once that's done, people have various sessions that they go to. You can schedule whatever. They have different tracks you can do. You can go through their app for the event itself, and you can fill up your calendar that way. I always recommend that people do everything, to improve their knowledge of the cloud in whatever capability that looks like for you. If it's maybe you're not a programmer, or you're not an infrastructure person, or you're not a database person, there's always something for everyone to expand their knowledge at reInvent. And the knowledge of the cloud, it's kind of why we're there, right? Is to just all kind of improve our knowledge on that. Monday overnight, there's typically various companies that sponsor events and host different parties. And so that's an opportunity for networking and meeting people, plenty of opportunity for that. There were a few deaf people who wanted to know how I interact with everybody at reInvent. First off, the AW reInvent people are great. They assign 2 interpreters to me so that we can go back and forth. It gives you a good workout because that whole week you're walking everywhere. I think they had a really big venue the week of most of the things are hosted at the Venetian. So they have the hotel, and then they have the conference center. So there's a lot of walking, probably 3 or 4 miles of walking, to the various spaces within the Venetian. So lots of that. Let's see, I think I did count the average of like 18,000 steps a day, if you can imagine. Put on your walking shoes if you plan to attend. The interpreter, did you survive? Yeah. So my interpreter here tonight, she was there with me as one of my interpreters for the week. So yeah, Tuesday all day again. There's also a big expo hall where you can go in and collect all the swag from the various companies and meet with different vendors. Maybe you want to ask questions about their product, or maybe you want to talk with some of those folks over there. Some are tech experts in their particular thing. So you might say like, how is this going to improve my workflow? Or, what's the cost? And so you can just take that opportunity to ask people questions. And there's people who are specific to AWS data zones and engineering, and so you can kind of pick your area to go around and ask various people how you want to learn about different things. It's just a really nice opportunity to chat with folks and interact. Let's see, Wednesday, I think we did a few keynotes, a few sessions in the evening. Again, those company sponsored events, you can register for those different events when you sign up to go as a participant to reInvent. Make sure to look at that. There's a lot of parties, a lot of different links on the list of things where you can RSVP if you want to go. So those can be a lot of fun as well. Some of the parties are like, we had one at the beer park. They've done some at clubs. So if you're into, loud music, those are sometimes very fun. You can find, other deaf people, other like-minded folks, and get together and, chat all evening. I know we did have one fun party that the MongoDB Lounge that they hosted a few evening events. So those were pretty great. We played a very inventful Jenga game, listened to music. It was good. Wednesday morning, they hosted a 5K. So the reInvent 5K, that's typically on Wednesday mornings every year during that week. So I can show you a picture, I think, if I can dig it up. But I did that. Just a few of the photos. So the love sign that's in the Venetian, it's always very well decorated. I was on the Build On Live. So there was a picture of people doing that. If you ever go to reInvent, you can look up some people and I can hook you up with some heroes and get you into maybe some of the VIP areas. Those are fun. So always feel free to reach out. So this was one of the VIP areas here. I think a place where all the AWS VIP, like vice principal and all the leadership, they open up a restaurant for us heroes, which is really great. So we can go and collaborate, have meetings with clients. This is the Hero Lounge. This is a woman that I know from India. She's got quite a long name, but she's a pretty recognizable figure from the Indian group. These pictures with the Vegas in the background from high up, those are from the Heroes Dinner. And then this picture of us, these are the first 3 data heroes I was talking about. So that's a picture of the 3 of us together. This is that view from the dinner that gets hosted on one of the nights. It's pretty fantastic. And then, of course, meeting up with old friends. And this guy, his wife is deaf. He signs really well, which is nice. This is the infamous Jenga game that I was talking about that we played, making up our own rules. Let's see, these are pictures from the 5K. So got to get up at like 5 in the morning. I was playing this Jenga game until midnight, and then had to get up at 5 the next morning. But I did switch to water to help myself out the next morning. But yeah, got up at 5 and get into bed 12:31, get up at run a 5K, then all day, running around reInvent and everything. So that was quite a day. Here's everybody in the staging. So basically the whole week at reInvent, you don't get any sleep. It's maybe 4 or 5 hours a night. There's so much energy, there's so much to do, there's so much absorbing of what's going on. And you feel like you get a little FOMO, like fear of missing out, right? Because you don't want to not take advantage of all the stuff while you're there. And so you end up just staying awake for a week and taking advantage of that. When I got back home on Friday, I think I slept the first night 11 hours, and then the next night maybe 10. My body was still kind of recovering and catching up. But luckily, no COVID, didn't get sick or anything, so that's good. I know that there's a few people who I think were maybe exposed to some different things. But yeah, this is just kind of more of my pictures from there. This one was fun. Snowflake set up like a little virtual skiing thing. That was fun. There's some, this is another hero from Brazil, Vanessa. That was at the 5K. And then you can see, this was a meeting with the interpreter there too. You can see her. We were talking about a machine learning process where you can identify which bears and like which particular bear by tag. It can do facial recognition and identify which bear has been where. So he was showing the interpreter this, and it was kind of if you've heard of the Fat Bear Week, that was a little bit of a part of this. This guy didn't come up with it in particular, but he had shared this information with that and the Fat Bear Week. So I don't know if, yeah, I think they're planning to develop it a little bit more, but he's partnered with the Forest Service. And then the picture next to that, the guy in the middle, that's one of my bosses. We also went into the wax museum for one of our events. So there's a picture of a couple of the wax figures in there, which pretty interesting. Like I said, the different companies host different parties in various locations around Vegas. So this one happened to be there. Some of you might know this guy here with the long hair, who's on, I guess he's on the left. Rick, he works for Sorensen Communications. I've worked with him. I've been working with him on a project. Currently, we're kind of still in the middle of it. So we've been doing a little bit of that. So got to see him in person. And then this is Warner's speech that I was talking about before. I like that shirt. I got to figure out a way to get his shirt. So yeah, I met this guy named Jason Corning. He's a deaf-blind individual, entrepreneur. Had an opportunity to chat with him. These are my two interpreters that were with me the whole week. Yay, interpreter, my heroes. That's what I call them. they go around with me all day, all evening. But you know, it's fun. This is my former boss. John Key probably recognizes this guy in the next photo. Guy who started Memento. So that's what we were talking about, caching as a service. So if you're looking for saving costs on caching, then hit me up and I can pass along the contact information. You can save a lot of money. So it's just pretty great little situation with the Memento going on. And then this is the last night. They do a big thing called replay. It's usually electronic music, EDM music. They usually have several bands play, DJs and whatnot. So it's always kind of fun, nice and loud, bass, lights. The story behind this build sweatshirt, Amelia, my interpreter, had an extra one. She gave it to me when we met up with each other at reInvent. And then there was like one of the guys from Memento decided that he wanted to swag swap. So we traded. I gave him my hoodie, and they gave us some t-shirts. He tried it on, it looked good. So I thought, yeah, go ahead and keep that one. So that was kind of funny. We took a picture. I think we'll probably we could probably do some other swaps. That was fun. This is just some of the lights from replay. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it because I don't think I have it all connected for you guys to hear, but gives you an idea. This is the big festival at the end. For some people, it's their highlight of the week, and it's the last big thing that happens before everybody goes home. And then more swag, so much swag. So yeah, just taking some pictures of that. Yeah, I think that's all I have kind of prepared. I don't know if there's any questions. Bring up the chat here. Let's see. Let me read through the chat real quick just to see if there's any questions from the audience. One question here is, how do we find to get into these sessions when they announce sessions? When they're opening up, it's really hard to get in. They do fill up fast. So once it's open, suggest registering for it. But really, honestly, a lot of people who reserve their seats there may or may not actually go to it. So you can likely get in if you're willing to wait a little bit. Typically, they'll have like a line for people who have reserved their seat, and then people who are waiting for empty seats that people don't show up for. So the first couple of days, the people who wait maybe have a hard time getting in, but then the last 3 days, it's a lot easier to get in. I think with those sessions, when AWS notices that there's a long wait list for a particular session, then they might repeat it too. So in theory, you don't miss too much. Let me see if there's any others. I'm using QuickSight in my current project. It's not a great tool. It still has a ways to go from my perspective, but it is great to just put together something really quick. So, pros and cons to that. Let's see what else. Any other questions, comments? If everybody's good, then thank you all for joining. We got just a couple minutes left, so it's about 5 my time. Yeah, great. So I'll see some of you on email, some of you on text, some of you on Slack. Thanks again for joining. I can stay on too if any other people who want to chat. So if people want to put their video on and chat, feel free.